the Horn of Africa, a region where history, geography, politics and power meet. From the Red Sea to the Gulf of Aden, from Ethiopia and Eritrea to Somalia and Sudan, the political landscape is changing rapidly. For centuries, this region has been a crossroads between Africa, the Middle East, and the wider world. Today, it is once again becoming one of the most strategically important regions on the planet. Ports are becoming more important. Trade routes are becoming more valuable. Military partnerships are expanding. Political alliances are shifting. And behind all of these developments is one fundamental question: who will shape the future of the Horn of Africa? This is Horn of Africa: Power, Politics and Influence, a Universal Africa Media documentary. The Horn of Africa is commonly associated with Ethiopia, Eritrea, Somalia, and Djibouti. But the wider geopolitical region also connects to Sudan, South Sudan, and Kenya. Together, these countries sit beside some of the world's most important waterways and trade routes. The Red Sea connects the Mediterranean to the Indian Ocean. The Gulf of Aden connects the Red Sea to the Arabian Sea. And the Bab el-Mandeb Strait is one of the world's critical maritime gateways. Every day, commercial ships carrying energy, food, manufactured goods and other products pass through these waters. That makes geography a powerful political asset. Djibouti, for example, has become a major logistics and military hub. Somalia has one of Africa's longest coastlines. Eritrea occupies a strategically important position along the Red Sea. And Ethiopia, despite being landlocked, is one of Africa's most important political and economic powers. For Ethiopia, the absence of direct access to the sea is more than a geographic inconvenience. It is increasingly a strategic issue. And this brings us to one of the most important political questions in the region. Ethiopia is home to more than 100 million people and is one of the largest countries in Africa by population. But since Eritrea became independent in the early 1990s, Ethiopia has been landlocked. Today, a large share of Ethiopia's international trade moves through neighboring Djibouti. For Addis Ababa, having greater access to the sea could reduce dependence on a single corridor and create new economic opportunities. This ambition became particularly visible in 2024, when Ethiopia signed a memorandum with Somaliland concerning access to the Red Sea. Somalia strongly objected. Mogadishu argued that Somaliland is part of Somalia and that agreements involving Somali territory must respect Somalia's sovereignty and territorial integrity. The disagreement created a serious diplomatic crisis between Ethiopia and Somalia. But diplomacy eventually produced an important development. In December 2024, Ethiopia and Somalia signed the Ankara Declaration. The agreement reaffirmed respect for sovereignty and territorial integrity and created a framework for negotiations concerning Ethiopia's future access to the sea. The dispute demonstrated something important. In the Horn of Africa, geography and sovereignty are deeply connected. A port is not simply a port. It can represent economic opportunity, national security, and geopolitical influence. And Ethiopia's search for maritime access has implications far beyond Ethiopia itself. Perhaps the most sensitive relationship in the region is between Ethiopia and Eritrea. The two countries share history, culture, and a long border. But they also fought a devastating border war from 1998 to 2000. After years of hostility, relations dramatically improved in 2018. Ethiopia and Eritrea declared peace. For a moment, it appeared that a new chapter had begun. But regional tensions returned during the conflict in Ethiopia's Tigray region. The war ended with the Pretoria Agreement in 2022, but tensions surrounding security, borders and regional influence have continued. Ethiopia's renewed interest in Red Sea access has added another layer to the relationship. For Eritrea, sovereignty and control of its coastline are extremely sensitive issues. For Ethiopia, maritime access is increasingly connected to economic development and national strategy. These competing interests create a delicate situation. A confrontation between Ethiopia and Eritrea would have consequences far beyond their shared border. It could affect Somalia. It could affect Sudan. It could affect Egypt. And it could affect the security of the entire Red Sea corridor. This is why diplomacy between Addis Ababa and Asmara matters not only to the two countries, but to the wider region. Somalia faces a different but equally important challenge. For decades, the country has struggled with political instability, terrorism, and institutional weakness. The militant group Al-Shabaab remains a major security threat. Somalia has been working to strengthen its national security institutions and gradually take greater responsibility for its own security. But security is only one part of the story. Somalia's coastline makes the country strategically important. Its position along the Gulf of Aden places it close to one of the world's major maritime routes. That has attracted interest from regional and global powers. Turkey has developed a significant security and economic relationship with Somalia. Egypt has also increased its engagement with Mogadishu. Other countries have interests connected to ports, trade, maritime security, and regional influence. For Somalia, however, the central issue remains sovereignty. Mogadishu wants its territorial integrity respected. It also wants to strengthen the authority of the federal government. The challenge is balancing national interests with the competing interests of neighboring countries and powerful international partners. While Ethiopia, Eritrea, and Somalia compete over influence and security, Sudan is experiencing one of the world's most devastating conflicts. In April 2023, fighting erupted between the Sudanese armed forces and the Rapid Support Forces. The conflict quickly spread. Cities were devastated. Millions of people were displaced. Food insecurity increased dramatically, and neighboring countries were placed under enormous pressure. Sudan's crisis is not only a domestic conflict. Its location makes it a regional issue. The conflict has therefore attracted intense regional and international attention. Different external powers have been accused of supporting different sides or pursuing strategic interests. At the same time, the humanitarian crisis continues to affect millions of ordinary Sudanese people. For the wider Horn of Africa, Sudan's instability creates additional risks. Refugee movements increase pressure on neighboring countries. Weapons and armed groups can cross borders. Trade routes can be disrupted, and instability can spread across already fragile regions. Sudan, therefore, represents one of the biggest challenges to regional stability. The politics of the Horn cannot be separated from the politics of the Red Sea. The Red Sea connects Africa to the Middle East, and countries on both sides of the water understand its strategic importance. Saudi Arabia has major interests in Red Sea security. The United Arab Emirates has developed economic and strategic relationships across the region. Turkey has expanded its presence in Somalia and other parts of Africa. Egypt is deeply concerned about developments involving Ethiopia, Sudan, and the Red Sea. China has established a military base in Djibouti. The United States also maintains a significant military presence in the country. European countries have interests in protecting maritime trade. This means the Horn of Africa is no longer simply a regional political arena. It has become part of a much larger global competition. But there is an important distinction. The countries of the Horn are not simply passive observers. They have their own interests. They negotiate. They form partnerships. They compete. And they attempt to use their geographic position to strengthen their influence. In the Horn of Africa, economic power and political power are increasingly connected. Ports are at the center of this competition. A major port can create jobs. It can increase trade. It can attract investment. And it can also provide strategic military and political advantages. This is why countries and companies are interested in ports across the Red Sea and Gulf of Aden. For landlocked Ethiopia, ports are especially important. For Djibouti, port services are a major part of the economy. For Somalia and Somaliland, coastal infrastructure represents a potential source of long-term economic development. For Eritrea, its Red Sea coastline remains a major strategic asset. The competition is therefore not simply about controlling territory. It is about controlling connections. Connections between markets, connections between continents, connections between economies, and connections between political powers. So where is the Horn of Africa heading? There are reasons for concern that political tensions remain high. Armed conflicts continue. Millions of people face displacement and food insecurity. And external powers continue to compete for influence. But there are also opportunities. The region has enormous economic potential. It has a young population. It has strategic ports. It has agricultural resources. It has renewable energy potential, and it sits at the crossroads of major global trade routes. If regional governments can strengthen cooperation, improve security and resolve disputes through diplomacy, the Horn could become an important economic bridge between Africa and the Middle East. But if competition turns into confrontation, the consequences could be severe. The future may depend on whether regional leaders choose cooperation over confrontation. When we talk about geopolitics, it is easy to focus on presidents, generals, ports, borders, and military alliances. But behind every political decision are ordinary people. Families affected by conflict, young people searching for jobs, farmers facing drought, traders crossing borders, fishermen working along the Red Sea, students hoping for a better future, and communities that want something remarkably simple: peace, security, opportunity, and a chance to build their future. The Horn of Africa is often described as a region of crisis. But it is also a region of enormous potential. Its future will not be determined by geography alone. It will be determined by the decisions made by the people and governments of the region. The question is not simply who has the most power. The deeper question is, how will that power be used? Will the Horn of Africa become a battlefield for competing interests? Or can it become a bridge connecting Africa to the world? The answer will shape one of the world's most strategically important regions for generations to come. This is Voyage d'une Nouvelle Afrique. Discover Afrique en Frefque. Experience Africa, and remember, Africa is not one story. Africa is millions of stories.